What's up, Sweat Hogs? Welcome to Good Bad Wrestling, No Holds Barred. This is the show where we dig up cringeworthy wrestling from the past and then bury it again. I am your host, John.
Jack Brinks.
And today, we actually don't have a cringeworthy segment to dig up. Today, we've got an interview that we're doing.
So today we got a well-known SoCal pro wrestler. Spent some time in Lucha Underground, some time in Wrestling Society X. Today we got my man, Lil Cholo. What's going on, brother?
What up, guys? How's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for being on with us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So for the people who don't know, when did you get started in wrestling, and when did you know growing up that you wanted to be a wrestler?
Well, I've been in the business now for 21 years. I had my first match October 28th, 1998.
Yeah, we kind of talked before we went on the air. I started at All Pro Wrestling in Hayward in like late 2001 or early 2002, and at that point you were already going in the indie scene. So, yeah, you had already had a little run by then.
Yeah, I've been around for a while. I guess people call me the veterano, the veteran, or the dinosaur nowadays. These kids are a lot younger than I am. But other than that, like I've loved wrestling ever since I was a little kid. To my earliest memory, like 3 years old, just watching wrestling on TV, just came across it and loved it ever since.
Who did you watch as a kid? Like who'd you look up to as a kid?
Oh man, well during that time, there was only I only got to see the WWF stuff, so Hogan, Andre. Like a very vivid memory is like watching WrestleMania 3, that the whole Andre Hogan storyline and stuff like that. That was something that definitely caught my eye. And other than that, I didn't really get into anything else until I was a lot older. A lot of stuff I was able to run into on television later on.
Because the pro wrestling scene in Southern California. We were talking the other day, and might slow down a little now, but in like the early 2000s, it was pretty big, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I guess the word to say is a hotbed for a lot of talent here. It was pretty big. If you were on any of the shows around that time, then you were something.
Yeah, I remember there was a minute where APW did APW SoCal, and I don't you would probably know better than I would what promotion they kind of absorbed to make that a thing, but I just remember it was like you and Daniels and like Samoa Joe was coming through there, and there was just tons and tons of people that have had a lot of prominence since then, like obviously you've got SCU now and stuff like that, but Southern California, like you said, was just a massive hotbed for a long, long time. What was the scene when you started training? Was it already coming up, or was it starting to get there?
I was trained in Lucha Libre style, so it was definitely different from the regular Southern California wrestling style. But there were so many wrestlers that were on the SoCal scene working in the lucha style already. That's where I saw Christopher Daniels for the very first time. He was one of those guys that definitely caught my attention too, because I saw him working at the company where I started from, WPW, and he did a shot there, and I just remember looking at him like, who is this wannabe Shawn Michaels looking character?
He had hair at the time.
He had hair at the time, and I actually talked to him about this not too long ago. But he's like, man, that mullet I had, bro. And his talent spoke for himself.
Yeah.
And he was just so talented. And when looking at guys like this, I didn't know there was actually good wrestlers out there that weren't in the WWF at the time. So that definitely sparked an interest in me.
That's crazy, because he was actually, I had that same epiphany when I was a student because of him. He came through APW. We were doing a show in like Sunnyvale or something like that. And I was a student. I was doing security, and we had already finished setting up, and me and Brian Danielson and another streamer were sitting up in the bleachers just shooting this shit because he was my instructor at the time. Dragon was, and Daniels was walking around down by the ring, and it was early 2000s. He had shorts on that are shorter than most men would probably wear now, and I said something to Brian where I was just like, Daniels has fucking jacked legs, and he doesn't even respond to me. He just yells out from the bleachers. He goes, Daniels, Sergeant thinks you have nice legs. I'm like, cool, this is my first interaction with this guy. Thank you for that. But he was on that show, and I was like, wow, there's actual like guys who stand out from the rest on the indie scene. Yeah, that was really funny. So where did you basically just what kind of gimmick did you break in with? Like what was your like first match? Do you remember your first match?
I guess I'll get into how I ended up with Lil Cholo, but basically, you know, it was kind of like I wanted to kind of pay tribute to one of my trainers at the time. I had two to start with. One of them was Martin Marin, who wrestled under the name as El Genio, the Genie, and the other one was named Laser or Láser in Mexico. And when he came to wrestle here and train here, he had the name Adventure. And it was kind of like a Power Ranger type looking gimmick. So I liked the way his style was or whatever. So I'm like, you know what? I want to do something kind of similar to him. And they gave me an outfit that looked a little similar, but they gave me the name Discovery. And they wanted us to pair up eventually. But in the meantime, I was just working by myself as that, and it looked basically like a Power Ranger, and in scuba gear. But it was kind of weird looking, and then honestly, I couldn't get used to wearing the mask. It was just so hot, very uncomfortable, and so I just stopped using it. And one day we were at a show, and somebody didn't show up. And even since I was a little kid, I always, dressed, I guess, in gang affiliated clothes. That was just my lifestyle, just the way I was brought up. And I told the promoter, I'm like, I don't have any gear. I don't have my mask. I don't have anything. And they're like, just wrestle like that. We'll give you some knee pads and that's it. And I'm like, yeah, but what am I going to wrestle as? And he looked me up from head to toe and he said, Lil Cholo. And there was already El Cholo, which was Martin's brother at wrestling at the time under that name. So they're like, you could just be Lil Cholo. So that we eventually would be able to tag up as well later on in the future. And that's pretty much how it stuck with me.
And were you into it at first, or were you kind of resistant to it at first?
I just didn't. I just thought the people were going to laugh at me because I didn't have any wrestling gear. I was just wearing my regular clothes. So, which at the time was some Dickies and some long socks, and I remember having a tank top. I think it was like a Dallas Cowboys style. That's what my favorite football team is. But they just saw me just like that, and they're like, it's gonna stick with you. The people are gonna like it. And I'm like, nah, they're probably just going to make fun of me. And in the end, it worked out really well. I decided not to change. So
kind of a funny story about that. When I started amateur wrestling in high school, I would always do the tall socks and put it underneath my knee pads. And it was really just because I'm a little bitch and I didn't want mat burn on my legs. So when I started at APW, I was doing that also until you worked an APW show. I think it was you and B-Boy, and I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to steal their gimmick, so I just quit doing that. So what was your first kind of like bigger show, or like a moment where you felt like you were starting to like get some steam, or like first big opponent that you were given that you thought was like a moment?
See, it actually took a couple years to get into it. I think the first big moment was definitely getting asked to team with Vampiro.
Okay.
Yeah, he pretty much handpicked me, and I hate to put him over because he's a dick, but
Just seems to be the consensus.
But yeah, he handpicked me. Aside from the wrestling aspect, we always got along. He was like one of the biggest stars that I met that we kind of just clicked. And I was always respectful towards him. And, he was always cool with me. And when we had the opportunity to have him on one of our shows, he's like, I want this little fucker to tag up with me. And that was pretty much it. And that was one of the biggest matches that I had ever had up until that point. Wrestling with like another lucha legend by the name of Mysterio. And yeah, we did some pretty cool shit. And after that, I was just like, you know what? If I could do matches like this and wrestle guys at this level, I'm pretty much ready for anybody.
So you've done some big matches. What is your favorite match, and what's the besides Vampiro to date? What is the biggest star that you've wrestled with, or your biggest moment in wrestling for you?
Oh man, that's a hard one. There's been so many. It's hard to narrow down to one. I've wrestled guys that have been in the WWE, WWF, Lucha Libre legends, guys in Japan. You name it, from like TJP to the Lucha Brothers, Ray Phoenix and Pentagon, to actually wrestling one-on-one against Vampiro, to wrestling ECW legend Sabu. And oh man, it's just that's definitely a hard one. I might have to get back to you on that one.
It's all good. I was watching, and I'd never seen this match before, but I loved it. I think it was at a fair. It was you and Rey Mysterio, and you guys tagged against Rocky Romero and John Morrison. And that was a cool match to watch.
That, you know what? Thanks for bringing that up, and I'm sorry that definitely slipped my mind. My ultimate dream, since I was a little kid, was to either wrestle against or team up with Rey Mysterio, because he's definitely my biggest idol. So you can ask anybody who actually personally knows me, that he is my, to me he's bigger than Hulk Hogan or whatever, as far as just as a person and as a wrestling personality. He's definitely my idol, my hero. And in Lucha Underground, I was able to wrestle against him. And then after that, I was actually able to tag with him on 2 other occasions. And the match that you mentioned was actually just a regular show. It was just out in the desert, in the Imperial Valley, which was a pretty crazy show. But yeah, that match was definitely cool. Getting in the ring with John Morrison and Rocky Romero was always a good day.
Yeah, I feel like you guys like you, B-Boy, Rocky Romero are super underrated, and don't get the recognition. I've been Rocky Romero's been on TV a bit, and same with you with like Lucha Underground. So seeing that match was a cool. It was super cool to watch as a fan of yours, and as a wrestler, seeing you with some big names like that. How did you get started in Lucha Underground?
Actually got recommended by Chavo Guerrero. I had heard about Lucha Underground starting up, and I saw a couple people around here getting picked up, and I was like, you know what, there's a buzz going, and hopefully, I get called upon. And it actually took a little bit of time, but I had received a call from Chris Joseph, who was the head writer at the time, who was actually working for the WWE now again. But he hit me up and said Chavo had threw my name in the hat, and they basically offered me a contract after that.
What was kind of your, like, the match quality in Lucha Underground was obviously like through the roof for the most part, because the roster was awesome, the talent was huge, so that kind of goes without saying. But the story stuff, like the tone stuff, the vibe, the kind of like way over the top, unrealistic kind of supernatural kind of stuff. What was your thoughts when they started putting these stories and stuff together? Because I know you were involved in one of the bigger ones.
Honestly, it tripped me the fuck out.
Yeah, I bet.
Because I wasn't when when it came to the match stuff, it was easy, and then getting the chance to be able to work with these guys, that have been on national television and stuff like that. That was just, then I knew it was going to be a learning experience. But when it came to actually doing the storyline and vignette stuff, like it looked we were in a fucking movie, and
it was real like cinematic,
very cinematic with all these 4 or 5 camera shots and special effects and makeup and it was just a whole nother level. And when we started doing that, I knew that Lucha Underground was going to be something special, for sure. Getting the chance to be able to work for Robert Rodriguez and Mark Burnett, who has their hand in like The Survivor and Big Brother and all these huge ass television productions, like. For me, getting able to chance to work with such these, I guess you could say, icons in the business of television, it's like what the fuck am I doing here?
It was as a spectator of it, it was surreal because at the time, really, I mean, TNA Impact was going, but they had probably been at their lowest point while that was happening, and WWE ranges from unwatchable to okay. So Lucha Underground was the shit for those like 3 seasons, but it was crazy because they had a literal Rocket Man. And was it you that died? Did you get killed?
I eventually got killed, but it was actually B-Boy that got killed first.
Yeah, that's right. And because it was you, B-Boy, and Chavo, right?
No, me, B-Boy. Oh, in the actual crew, it was me, B-Boy, and Ricky Reyes.
Oh, that's right. But just like somebody actually getting murdered in a wrestling show was like blew my fucking mind.
Well, trust me, when they brought it up to us and we saw or we knew it was going to happen, we were like this fool's about to die right now. In a wrestling show, like we didn't know what the feedback was going to be. We didn't know if we were going to get laughed at, but the people were just, they tripped out just as much as we did.
Yeah. And what, so can you give us a little insight about like the end of Lucha Underground? 'Cause it seems like there's a bunch of workers that are getting caught in these like crazy lifetime contracts. And I talked to Matt Cross, came through my gym, and I was talking to him about it, and he was stuck in a contract thing with them. Did you have any of that?
Well, we all kind of got stuck in that, but you know what? It was at the time. This is the way that I looked at it, and my wife had brought it up to me. I was kind of at that point in my career where I'm not going to say I wasn't doing anything, but I wasn't getting offers thrown at me, and I'm just being realistic,
Right.
And I didn't have TNA knocking on my door. I didn't have WWE knocking on my door, but I did have a lot of bookings here on the indie scene. And my wife had told me, she goes, you know what do you get to lose? And I didn't have anything to lose. So I signed it. And, a lot of people have speculation that it's over. A lot of people have moved on or whatever. But the way that I look at it, and I just talked to my tag partner the other day, Mariachi Loco, and I had mentioned something. And he's like, it's over. Get over it. I'm like, well, I haven't received my release from my contract. So until that happens, then it's over,
You still haven't?
No.
Oh, wow.
Nobody has received word from anything. That was, I think, one of the biggest downfalls in that company, because honestly, as a TV show or whatever you guys want to call it, it was one of the best wrestling rooms, locker rooms, productions that you could ever be a part of. But when it came to communication, that was what they lacked. Lack of communication. So like I said, like I haven't received my release yet. So until I do, then it's over. But as far as I know, and there's a lot of rumors going around that it could be coming back. It's definitely not. So you never know. Yeah, I don't say it's over till it's over.
But aren't you dead?
My character, Mr. Cisco, is dead.
Right. I suppose
But
you could
later
be
on,
resurrected.
well, in season 3 and season 4, I came back under a new character.
Oh.
I was a part of the Rabbit Tribe under a mask.
Okay, my cable provider dropped El Rey Network, so I didn't get to see that.
With Paul London,
a lot of people did. Yeah. And that was another big downfall, was that not a lot of people in the U.S. could get the El Rey Network.
Yeah.
And people were switching their cable packages to be able to watch the show. And I knew when people would do that, or I'd hear stories of people doing that I knew that it was special.
People were into it.
But
that's what we had to do. John and I, actually, me, John, and my wife all rented a place together. And when it was coming out, we went through, and I think we had to add that.
Yeah, we paid extra just specifically for El Rey, specifically for Lucha Underground.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot, and it's crazy. It really sucks that season 5 didn't happen, or at least hasn't happened yet. Or if it doesn't happen, then I'm happy with the 4 seasons that we get to do.
When it started, when the idea was pitched, when you were brought in, what was your initial thought at the idea that it was more of a production, like it was more of a TV show with, like John said, the supernatural stuff, the over the top storylines? Did you think it was good for the business or hurt the business? Because like for me, when I first, it took me a minute to get into it, because I'm like, this is so far, part of it's so far removed from wrestling that the people who go, yeah, wrestling's fake, they're just going to point at that and go, yeah, see, it's fake. It's just, it's like a TV show. But then once you got into it, I loved it because it's completely different than anything else that was on TV.
And that was the whole mindset behind it, was that it wasn't a wrestling company. It was definitely a TV show with wrestling involved. So that was definitely the difference about it, and it definitely wasn't going to look like WWE. It wasn't going to look like TNA, but it did something, or it influenced the wrestling industry when you have TNA later doing the final deletion and stuff like that, because a lot of their stuff, they weren't filming like we were. WWE started doing vignettes like that as well, and I'm pretty sure it was because of the Lucha Underground influence.
Yeah, and your TV experience before that was probably Wrestling Society X.
Yes.
What was that experience like? Because that was, I mean, I can't remember if I didn't watch it for very long or if it just didn't last for very long, but I remember being really interested in it when it came out. What was that like? How'd you get involved in that? What was your thoughts about that?
Well, that was definitely there was definitely a lot of similarities when I first heard about Lucha Underground, because everybody assumed that it was going to be like another Wrestling Society X. Wrestling Society X was definitely a little bit more, how can you say it? It was definitely a little bit more crazy, a lot more Wild West, definitely a lot more freedom. That was an actual, it wasn't even a wrestling company. It was definitely another TV show as well that had wrestling involved with it, but there was definitely a lot more freedom. And, Kevin Kleinrock, he has a good mind when it comes to wrestling and stuff like that. And I think his beliefs and what he wanted in the company were definitely like on the right track. I think he brought in the right talent, and the whole deal with MTV was just it was crazy to be on national television during a primetime spot on all of the MTV channels. That was just unheard of. Like, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, how the fuck did I end up on MTV?
I never thought we'd see a world where MTV was in the wrestling game. Like, I know they had the whole rock and wrestling with WWF back in the day, but at that time when it was like, music videos and spring break shit, like it just didn't feel like they were gonna have anything to do with wrestling. And I thought that Wrestling Society X was gonna blow up. I thought it was gonna be huge.
Well, figuratively speaking, it kind of did blow up with all the exploding cage matches and shit like that. But you know, so did I. You know, just to think about, we were up at like, I don't remember. I want to say it was in between primetime hours of 8 and 10 p.m. But we were debuting with like, you know, TV shows with like Bam Margera and some, you know, I don't know if it was Teen Mom and stuff like that during that time. It was just fucking these huge ass television productions, and you have wrestling at that primetime hour. And I was thinking to myself, you know what, this project is probably gonna blow up. In the end, it was the only thing that blew up was the ring, and the TV show didn't get a chance to.
Why do you think it didn't work?
As far as I know, this is from, you know, rumors and innuendo. Basically, there was only one person that was pushing the whole production in MTV, on the MTV side of it. And when we were getting ready to film either season 2 or they wanted to renew us, that person got fired. So then in the end, there wasn't anybody pushing for that show. And I guess that's what, you know, that's why we didn't get picked up for another season.
I feel like I was thinking about it the other day that show was too far ahead of its time, because WWE was like, it was the only thing around, and it was still popular. And now right now you have WWE's, you know, dropping in ratings. You have AEW that's blowing up. You got more TV with, you know, Ring of Honor has a show and New Japan has a show. And I feel like, I might be wrong, but if Wrestling Society X happened, you know, 10 years later, it probably would have had a longer lasting time on TV. Probably.
But then again, if Lucha Underground came around the same time, then that would have been definitely an interesting rivalry for sure.
Yeah, that's true. So I was reading an interview with you, and in the interview they talk about how you love ribbing people. They talk about some ribs. So what is the one of your favorite ribs that you've done or been on the receiving end of?
Oh man, I'll keep the receiving one to a later date, maybe off the air. But definitely one that I enjoy doing. Definitely a lot. I just don't want to give it away because I'm going to continue to do it. But
go to your second best.
It's just. I like to do it to a lot of the rookies. Like you know, doing the ritual after the show. We go to a Denny's or any food spot or whatever's open after a show or whatever, and you know we'll be at the table with a couple of the rookies or whatever, and one will get up to go to the restroom or whatever. I get whatever is nearby, whether it be ketchup, hot sauce, pepper, salt, sugar, or whatever, and I stuff it in their straw and put at the very bottom of the straw. So I'll flip the straw upside down, put it, whatever it is, hot sauce, ketchup, it doesn't matter what it is, and then I dip the straw back into their soda. So it doesn't look like there's anything at the top of there. So when they take that first sip, bro, that's all they're getting is either ketchup, hot sauce, whatever.
That sounds like you need great precision to pull off. That's some Mission Impossible shit. You got timing and
a lot of practice. A lot of practice, bro. A lot of practice. And there's definitely at least 24 people who have fallen victim to that.
Awesome. I wish I had it queued up because I played this for John the other day. I found it when you came up here and wrestled with us in Petaluma. You had the 3-way with you, Dana, and Jardi. So when I was making the commercial for that show, me and Dana are super close, and I asked them to make a second commercial, and I sent it to Dana when it was made, and he listened to. So in the commercial, when they're for the radio spot, when they're talking about the triple threat match, because I talked about the main event with David Young and Gangrel, and then the triple threat match, they go starring Lil Cholo, Jardi Frantz, and that little bitch Dana Lee. And he thought that was the actual spot for that was going to play on the radio. And then a second time in that commercial, the guy just randomly says that little bitch Dana Lee, and he lost his shit. Oh, it's so fun.
Oh
fucking
man,
with that
I would
guy.
like. I'd really like to see that match. I never got to see it.
Shit. Well, I have a video of it. I'll try to see if I can try to capture or if they're split up or something on the video and shoot that to you, because I love that match.
If you could, I don't know, even if you can upload it to YouTube somehow or whatever, and I'd definitely like to check it out. I actually told my wife not too long ago about that experience. I was like, that was one of the first few times that I ever got flown out for a show. You took really good care of me, and I'll never forget that. I think we've been cool ever since.
Yeah, you were like when I started at APW. I think the first show that I saw there was you and B-Boy in a match, and I just something about your gimmick and the way you worked. And so when I was putting that show together, I was like, I would love to see them in a 3-way. I think you'd work Dana and Jardi a bunch, and to me it was like a no-brainer that, you know, the people up here would be into it and like your character. So I appreciate that.
Jardi Frantz is definitely one of the most underrated wrestlers in the world, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think he ever got it.
He was one of my trainers, and so I spent, I don't know, 7 months sitting ringside watching him have matches, and it is a crime that he never got the notoriety that he deserved. You know,
I don't know what he's up to nowadays, but man, if you ever get to see him and talk to him, tell him I said what's up.
For sure. That show that you guys are talking about, we when Sean and I were living together, he had it was on like some sort of technology of like tiny cassettes that was like super outdated, and we had to get it transferred to DVDs, and we hadn't seen it in years and years and years and years. And we sat down in the apartment when we were roommates, and we watched it, and there was 2 things that stood out to us. One was how good that triple threat with you and Jardi and Dana was. The other one for us was how fat him and I were at the time. It was like impossible to watch.
Oh man, well then I have the total opposite now, because I look at my matches back then and I'm like, how the fuck was I so skinny? And then I look at myself now and I'm like, damn.
Well, like I was telling you the other day when we were texting, man, I think it's a shame that you haven't gotten the opportunity to be up here more. And if we were doing shows, you bet your ass you'd be bringing you up here to do some more work.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. My daughter asks me all the time, you know, hey, Dad, can you tell me stories about, you know, you on the road, stuff like that? And I told her about that time that was one of the very first times that I got flown out to any show, and how good you took care of me. You know, the Young Bucks were on that show as well, and I remember I'd always been cool with them up until then. That was like their first time traveling together. So when you get to travel with guys that you normally don't get to, and you know you get those experiences, it's just something that you never forget. So yeah, that was definitely cool.
Awesome. So I'm gonna take it away from wrestling a little bit, just because what's coming up this weekend, the Super Bowl. You're a Cowboys fan.
Yes, I am.
What are
Probably a lot of people aren't gonna like that.
Yeah, we won't hold that against you.
I'm a Rams fan, so I'm fucked when it comes to being up here in Northern California. So I feel for you. What are your thoughts on Dak? Re-sign him or no?
You know what? Honestly, I'm out of the loop. I haven't, this past 2 or 3 years, I haven't been able to follow football as much as I used to. So, like, as far as that, I wouldn't really know. I hear a lot of good stuff. I hear a lot of negative stuff, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think Dak is he's a real middle of the pack guy. He's in the same group as like your Kirk Cousins and your like a little less than Matt Ryan kind of guy. I think they re-sign him if he would come down on his price. I've got a pretty bold prediction with what I think is going to happen, that Dak is going to price himself out and they're not going to re-sign him, and I think that there's a really good chance that Tom Brady ends up on the Cowboys for a year or two.
Yeah.
Wow. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, that would blow up the world. Like the internet
For
would
sure.
melt if that happens. Like the biggest name on the biggest name team. It's not super likely, but I think it's got a chance of happening.
You never know, bro. Never know.
So when you're not wrestling, what kind of stuff are you doing?
Eating.
Well, then that makes three of us then.
Yeah, we talked to do you know Jay Biggs, the announcer? We talked to him the other day, and he was saying that he runs a yearly show called The King of Taco, and I was like, I had no idea somebody took my crown.
Oh man. Is that like a wrestling show or what is that?
Yeah, he said he runs a wrestling show once a year that's called King of Taco, and he called it that just to kind of fly in the face of that it doesn't matter what a wrestling show is called, and he said he took it from King of Indies. But I thought
I'm not booked on that show.
Right? We'll talk to him because I think there's he's up in Reno, and Reno has a lot of like rib cook-offs, and so I'm guessing there's like a taco festival or something that happens. They have like a big Italian festival up there every year, so I'm assuming it's like that, and they do King of the Tacos. But yeah, you definitely should be on that card.
Maybe he thought it would be offensive.
No way. Like that'd be. I mean, I want to catch my daughter's reaction to this. There is a wrestling show called King of Taco. Can you imagine if I was on that show? She's just smiling her ass off right
now. Yes. She's like, oh, it's in the bag. That's your title.
Oh, who would be champion of that?
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, she's pointing at me. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
I aside from wrestling, aside from all the other stuff, I'm definitely, you can say, a food connoisseur. I love food. I love it. That's my downfall. The most common thing that I hear, and I don't know how to take it because, it's a compliment, but at the same time, it's kind of one of those backhanded compliments where people have never seen me wrestle before. They'll see me at a show. They'll be walking by, not even a real wrestling fan, but they see what I do in the ring, and then they'll come up to me, and 9 out of 10 times, it never fails. They always tell me, "Man, you move pretty well for a chubby guy." And there's always that pause, or they kind of want to tell me, or they'll be like, "You do move pretty well," and then they'll kind of hesitate, like, should I tell him chubby or should I not?
Does he know?
Well,
yeah,
and it's just pretty much like, yes, go ahead and say yes for a chubby guy. I know.
Yeah, for like your Kevin Owenses and Samoa Joes, like you just got to hear that stuff, and
I know how you feel. I used to get that all the time. Like, man, he's fast for yeah, you can say it. It's cool. I get it.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? And it's been happening to me for so many years that, I just me, I know I can always look better. I wouldn't mind having that, 6 or 8 pack abs like, Ricochet has or whatever, but, but then that wouldn't be me, it's just, I wouldn't feel,
I feel like
comfortable,
I feel like too, if you were like a Ricochet, 4% body fat kind of guy, your gimmick wouldn't work. I feel like you own your gimmick. You know what I mean? Like you said, it's just the clothes you happen to be wearing that day. So it just, I don't know. I've always been of like, I don't really care what a guy looks like as long as it fits that guy. You know what I mean? As long as it fits what they're trying to do.
The most common thing that a lot of people say, or you've been saying, it's a gimmick. I don't really feel it's a gimmick though. It's my lifestyle. It's my culture. It's the way I was brought up,
Yeah.
So, and it's just me, but definitely, I love wrestling and I love food.
What kind of wrestling stuff are you into watching these days? Like what's going on in wrestling that you're super into?
Honestly, I watch all types of wrestling. I watch all types, and it doesn't matter what it is because you got to be a student of the game.
Yeah.
For me, being in the business 21 years, I still watch as much as I possibly can. Whether it be WWE, whether it be AAA, CMLL, New Japan, Dragon Gate, stuff in England or in Europe or whatever. I just try to watch everything that I possibly can and just soak it up because you never know who you're going to be in the ring with next.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and you want to know what they do. You want to know like the new stuff that like new styles, new trends. Yeah, I feel you on that.
And I teach a wrestling class too once a week, and I tell a lot of my students that the best thing you could possibly do is watch every single type of wrestling because you definitely know who you never know. You never know who you're going to be in the ring with. A lot of people there might be a language barrier or whatever, but wrestling it's just a universal style. You can do pretty much anything. As long as you're just studying and you'll be able to adapt, or you should be able to adapt to any style possible.
Where do you teach a class at?
Here in Orange County, in Stanton, California. I teach a class every Friday night. It's actually at a place called the Della O Jiu-Jitsu Center
nice.
in Stanton. And Friday nights is the night that I get to train. There's other wrestling classes throughout the week, but I have my personal class on Friday night.
Dude, that's awesome. You have to come by next time we're down there and
for sure
pop in and take a look at it.
Hell yeah.
What is your
you were telling me the other day that you want to plan a trip coming down here, and when you do, oh man, you better come on an empty stomach.
Well, I was thinking when you were talking about food, we got to get you to come up here and do the Sonoma County food and wine tour. We could trade food tours.
Oh, there you go. Man, I think you might leave in food coma here though, bro, because
what is your?
I would definitely.
Oh no,
definitely try the Sonoma thing.
Yeah,
I would definitely like to try the Sonoma thing, but you know what? Contrary to everybody's belief, I actually don't drink.
Really?
And yeah, that's the action. That's the prize that I usually get.
Well, that was that because of like a drinking problem, or you never have been a drinker?
No, never been a drinker.
Wow. All right. Well, that's if you weren't a professional wrestler, that you talk to people all the time, but coming up through wrestling, that's actually very surprising.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people look at me and like, let's go get a beer, or can I buy you a beer? Man, if I had a fucking dollar for every time that somebody's offered me a beer and I turned it down, man, I'd be a millionaire, bro.
Yeah. Dang.
What is your favorite? You said you watch all kinds of wrestling. What is your favorite thing in wrestling currently? Like favorite show, favorite gimmick, character, whatever.
When it comes to wrestling, like as long as it's good wrestling, I don't really care. But if you talk about character stuff, there's only one character that sticks to mind to me right now that's pretty dope, and that's the Fiend.
Yeah.
I like that character a lot. I love his entrance. I love the mask. I hope that they don't fuck it up.
It kind of feels like the hotness that the Fiend had is starting to fade, and it is not Bray's doing. It's the booking of it to me. It just feels like the magic is starting to slip, like I think you're saying you hope they don't do, and I hope they can get it back.
There's some really smart people that are working for that company right now. And if they would let these people take control of that character, man, like the sky's the limit. But in the end, they only have one boss, and he's got the final say so. And it'd be a shame if that character went to waste because, like I said, that mask and that entrance and that music and all that, it's just so fucking dope. And it'd be really sad if it went to waste for sure.
We say it a lot on episodes on our show is they right now have put together probably the greatest roster in wrestling history. And a lot of times, unfortunately, you watch TV, you just go, what are they doing? Like there's so many fucking talented people and so many dream matches that they can make with that roster, and they just seem to blow it, and it sucks as a fan.
Yep. And I don't. You know what? I don't know when they're going to realize that or whatever, but the talent's just going to get sick of it in the very end. And honestly, like it could, everybody's different, and it could come down to money or the love of the business. But in the end, I think we all do it for the love of the business. And like, yeah, the money's great, but at the same time, if you're not happy, then I don't think all the money in the world can make you happy doing something that you really don't want to do, And their fucking roster is just so packed with talent. It's just overfilled with talent that the matches they could have there, and if they had the option or the ability to just let them have freedom and not be so micromanaged like they are, man, they would be untouchable. Like legit, it would be untouchable.
It
Getting,
should.
They have the opportunity to see fucking Rey Mysterio versus Ricochet again. They should take advantage of that. They have Ricochet versus John Morrison, and it's not just Ricochet. There's so many unused talents like Grand Metalik, part of the Lucha House Party, and Lince Dorado. Like those guys, if they just had the opportunity to just let them shine like they should, they would be humongous stars. They don't get that opportunity.
Yeah, that's you're nailing it. The roster is almost too big, and guys like Lince Dorado and Grand Metalik would be better served elsewhere rather than what they're doing. But how do you say no to WWE? Like, you think this is my shot to hit it big, and then they just shelf these like amazing talents. Like, yeah, I think you're right. This should be the greatest period that company has ever lived through right now, but unfortunately, it's not. All right, so
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. So I was unaware that you were still tied up in that Lucha contract. Are you able to take any bookings at all?
I'm taking any fucking bookings that I want.
Okay.
They haven't done. We see with our contracts with them is that we get paid whenever we film. So we haven't filmed with them. So we can't just sit there and wait for them to film another season,
Right.
So we just got to do what we got to do. A lot of the guys that, that did receive the opportunities to go somewhere else that needed to be legally under contract, they found a way to get out of their stuff, and that's it. I'm still able to take any booking that I want or that comes my way. They've never given me, or they never showed me a hard time. Like even a couple of the iPay-per-views that I did, even still while doing the seasons, like they were cool with. I think it's also a way of how you approach them, or like what the opportunity is that you're talking about. The only thing that we were told during the very last season was that we couldn't wrestle for WWE.
Okay.
We could wrestle anywhere else in the world. It was just not WWE.
Well, and at that time there wasn't an AEW probably.
No, at that time there wasn't an AEW. So, I think it was definitely a fair, option. Like they're not telling us you can't work here, you can't work there, you can't do this, you can't do that. They were still giving us the opportunity to wrestle anywhere, just not WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And to those who left and have moved on and that are there now, I congratulate them. They're doing great. But they cannot say that Lucha Underground didn't help them get that opportunity.
Oh, 100%.
A lot of them, I feel like they're like, oh, well, we just got it off of this, or we got it. No, Lucha Underground puts you on their radar for sure.
John Morrison re-signed because he had a resurgence with Lucha Underground.
I believe so.
They wasted his talents. He left.
Yep.
Then I think he had, you probably know better than I would. I think he intended to retire. And then Lucha Underground happened. He blew up within Lucha Underground, and that's the reason why he's back on the wrestling map, basically.
He's another guy that I look at him and I'm getting to be in the ring with him. It's like, this guy is so fucking talented. Like, his mind for wrestling is just like no other, and the ability to do shit that other people can't have is just, it's crazy. And how WWE did not take advantage of that during his first time there was just, it was crazy. But
yeah, what else?
I'm happy for him.
What else do you want out of a wrestler? Like, he's insanely good looking. He's shredded more than anybody ever. He's the most athletic guy probably I've ever seen. He can talk on the microphone. His gear looks good. I'm with you. I don't get it. I don't get how they could not push him to the moon.
I don't get it either, bro. I just don't get it at all.
What are your thoughts on AEW?
Oh, that's cool. It's cool. I'm glad that they're able to showcase a lot of the talents that maybe haven't gotten a chance in WWE, and it's cool to see to have homies that are there, such as Scorpio Sky and the Young Bucks and Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. It's cool that they're all there and they're getting a worldwide platform to do what they're able to do. They deserve it, and good for them. I can't wait for them to come to the West Coast for sure.
All right. Well, we like to finish off these interviews with what we call the go home questions. It's basically just 10 questions that we ask everybody, and just kind of get a little dig into the mind of who we're talking to. You set for that?
Sure.
All right. What is your all-time favorite wrestling catchphrase?
Let me tell you something, brother.
Yes. I was like, okay, go on. Oh wait, yeah. What is your?
It's definitely a toss up in between that one or hey yo.
Yeah. Oh man, hey, I say hey yo in conversation to people to find out if they're wrestling fans or not. What is your least favorite wrestling catchphrase?
Shoot. Least favorite. I don't know. That's kind of a hard one because usually a lot of the catchphrases are pretty good. Do you guys have a least favorite one?
I was never a big fan of Who Better Than Canyon. Like I just thought that was kind of lazy. I mean, for lack of a better term. There's just what's the noise that Titus O'Neil does? The dog noise.
Oh yeah.
Like I could live without ever hearing that again.
I don't know. That one's kind of a hard one.
All right. What in wrestling makes you pop? Just in general, it could be like awesome pyro, could be a certain move. What is something in wrestling that makes you pop every time?
The fans.
Yep.
The fans make me pop because they're so. Some fans are so out of this world that, it's kind of hard to explain, but the love and the respect that they show towards us is they don't owe me anything, like they don't have to cheer for me. They don't have to boo me. Like they don't have to do anything. They don't even have to go see me wrestle, but for them to pay their hard earned money to come and see me and the other guys that are on the show and, just whether, they hate me or they boo me, just for them going there, like it makes me pop because it's just like, man, like we're doing something special for them to come and do it, to come and watch us.
Yeah, it's always cool to hear that from workers that appreciate and give back to the fans. I love that,
especially someone with 21 years in the business, like that you haven't gotten jaded and tarnished, and just going through the motions of doing it.
And there's sometimes, and a lot of guys will tell you, like if I'll get either brought into a show or if it's like a show that I usually do like on the regular, like, man, I have this thing like, man, I don't want to do shit today. Like I just want to, I don't want to do anything. I don't feel like doing anything. and in the end, like I'm the one that did the most. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I just have that. Like you have like this thing. You know, it's just in you. Like no matter how lazy you are, no matter how tired you are, no matter how you didn't sleep, the night before or whatever. Just once you get in that ring, like you just turn it up, and you're good to go.
What are the parts of wrestling that turn you off? What are like the common things you see, or something about psychology or booking or backstage or whatever that turns you off about wrestling?
The know-it-alls, and the guys that have never been in the ring whatsoever. I understand and I respect everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but if you've never ever taken a bump or been a part of a dressing room or went to finish an actual wrestling school, like that's the shit that turns me off, because they go out there and they express their feelings and they express this guy sucks and this guy should do this and this guy should do that, but you've never done it yourself,
Yeah.
And I just think that that entitlement that they feel entitled, like, and the stupid thing or the worst thing about that is that promoters or other people listen to that, and because of people like that feel entitled, that they think that their opinion actually matters, like the promoters listen to them and they don't book these people, and that's wrong. I think that's very wrong, because if just that one person says something negative about this guy that during his match or whatever, the way he looks, then they don't book him, and that's fucked up, honestly. Because this guy just in his hard-earned money to go through a fucking wrestling school, to bump his ass off and to actually take time and learn something that he loves and wants to do, like, and then have just one dude shit on him and a promoter listening to them, like that's fucked up.
Yes, I hate all these on YouTube. They have, like you said, love wrestling fans, but all these people who've never done it get on and do these like video shows and reviews, talking, they read the dirt sheets and talk about how things should be booked differently and how this wrestler sucks and this wrestler screwed up on this, and like you said, they're people who've never stepped foot in a ring and never been behind the scenes and don't know the first thing about it, criticizing what everyone else does.
Yep.
Well, and then too, we live in a world where social media and YouTube and things like that are so prevalent, and people feel like they have anonymity to say anything to anyone from a distance, right? And wrestling catches it just as much as any profession, you know what I mean? And it's yeah, I agree with you. People that sit back and go, it should have been like this or it should have been like that, and it makes me mad, because I'm like, when they call a move botched or something, and I'm like, okay, you run up the ropes and try to Hurricane Rana somebody and see how many times you can get it right.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So
the other day at my work, I'll make this short. The other day at my work, this is like a reason why, even in my work life and my wrestling life, I don't tell anybody at my regular job what I do, because I don't like to hear the stupid comments about, oh, wrestling is fake and this and that and blah blah blah, and some other guy tried to get a little mouthy or whatever. I'm like, dude, you know what? I'll give you $100 if you go and you finish one of my classes.
Yeah.
You know what happens? You shut the fuck up.
Yeah, if you can finish one day. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Next question. What is some entrance music that you love? Your favorite entrance music?
Oh man.
Yours or anybody else's?
Oh man, like I was saying earlier, the Fiends is pretty dope. Rey Mysterio is pretty dope. Man,
I was surprised that they left when Rey came back to WWE. I was surprised that they gave him the same music. I thought they would try to like revamp a little bit. I mean, I love that music, but I thought maybe they'd do a little new video package, new music kind of thing for him.
He was the song that he used while he was on the Indies. But the same guy that did his WWE theme music, Mad One, he did one for him. It's called Aquí Estoy, and that shit's dope. Like that.
Really?
He used it for AEW. Yeah, he used it for AEW. He used it in New Japan. And if you get a chance to listen to it on YouTube, it's pretty dope. Like that song would be dope in WWE right now.
In Lucha Underground, you guys didn't have entrance music, right? Was it post-production?
Yeah, everything was post.
Was that weird?
Very, very. It was very weird. Sometimes, but it was weird. But at the same time, it was cool because then you could actually hear the crowd yelling at you or cheering for you, or catching all those little comments that you wouldn't get to hear because the music is up. It was pretty cool sometimes.
Okay. What's the entrance music that you hate?
Oh man, there were so fucking many. You know what? One more that I did like though that was pretty cool. It's pretty underrated. Actually, two. One was Goldust, and the other one was Gangrel. Those ones are pretty dope to listen to.
I'm not gonna lie. I'll put on Gangrel's music when I'm just driving. Sometimes, like that music is legit.
Ones that I hated. Jeff Jarrett's theme song.
The one he sings.
Yes. What else?
Spend my day working hard on the go.
Yes. Oh man, that was horrible. I pretty much liked everybody's. There wasn't like too many that were bad.
Yeah. Okay. A classic look, a classic attire. Coming from a lucha background, you got probably a bazillion you can choose from. Like the best look.
Oof. Best look. And there's so many. There's so many. Like Ray's looks for WrestleMania.
Yeah,
like those are the ones that stand out.
Man,
those are the ones that stand out. And then,
when WrestleMania season's coming around and they start going over like entrances and gear and stuff like that, he gets overlooked. He's had some of the dopest WrestleMania looks ever.
For sure.
His what was the one with the big headdress?
Oh, like the
Aztec,
the Aztec one. Yeah, that was dope. All right, an attire, a look that you hate.
Oh, that I hate. IRS.
We all hate the IRS.
Hey, you said it, not me.
Yeah, we're being recorded here, not just by our phones.
That was kind of like whatever. I didn't really like Brutus the Barber's style stuff. Sometimes you just kind of look at it and had the big old hole in the side, and dude, put some fucking full tights on. I didn't want to look at that stuff, but those were pretty much. That was pretty much it.
All right, give us your best wrestling impersonation.
Oh no. Impersonation. Man, I'm not good at these.
All right, you got the option to pass.
I'll pass on that one.
All right. Fair. So the last question, the whole premise of this show is that, like I said, we talk about the cringeworthy stuff, the stuff that you laugh at. We've done some episodes on the debut of the Shockmaster and the Mae Young giving birth to a hand and shit like that. So that's what we're talking about when we say good bad. What's your favorite good bad moment in wrestling?
Oh man, I actually watched this back the other day, and I wasn't watching for this, but I was actually watching for a specific match that I heard on the podcast. But it was the day, it was a Royal Rumble, 2000 something. It was the day that Mae Young flashed the audience.
Was she was in the ring?
Oh man. Yeah, they were doing like this bikini contest, and she was a last minute entrant, and she was like, "I'm going to show everybody my puppies," and they're like, "No and no." And the next thing you know, like she's teasing the crowd or whatever, and she starts taking off with the top part of her top, and they're like, "No, no," and then she turns around and just, bam, just shows it all.
Good God.
When Jerry Lawler doesn't want to see your puppies, there's a problem.
Oh. If you guys can go back and watch that specifically to hear Jerry Lawler's comments from the very beginning to end, you guys will laugh your asses off.
We're definitely doing that episode.
No, for sure. Like you will thank me after. It was the Royal Rumble that had the Hardys versus the Dudleys in the tables match. I know that.
Okay.
But other than that, just watch for that segment. And trust me, you'll thank me later.
That's amazing.
All right. Do you have anyone to shout out? Any dates? Anything before we sign off?
To everybody, to you guys, thank you very much for taking the time to have me on your show. I really appreciate it. I love doing these things. I love doing podcasts, and I like listening to podcasts. So if you ever want me to come back again, if I talk to shit on some more people, I will. But other than that, just a shout out to everybody for all the continued support they have supported me the past 21 years. I sincerely appreciate it. Shout out to my tag partner, Mariachi Loco. He's the other half of the Lucha Homies. And as far as dates go, got a pretty busy February coming up. Got like Lucha Vavoom, Double Shot. Got some shows around here in LA. In Anaheim, February 23rd. Wrestling like some big stars from AAA. We're going to be in the ring with like Psycho Clown and Tejano, which is going to be a big one. And we go back to Dallas, Texas for Martinez Entertainment, which should be pretty cool. We're defending our tag titles over there. And I don't know, some big stuff coming around the corner. Can't really get into it that much, but definitely stay tuned. And thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, man. Appreciate your time. Glad to hear you're getting the work you want, and hopefully we can catch you real soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Sweat Hogs, that's it from Cholo. That's it from us. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.